Hello, Pam. How are you doing today?
I am doing okay. Miss Tasha, how are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much. I'm excited to have you on today so that we can talk about a lot today, especially COVID-19, flu season, and everything that's going on right now so that people can be safe during the holidays. And so, if you can just tell me a little bit about, first of all, how did you become a nurse? How did you get inspired about even working in the health profession?
Absolutely. So, I've always wanted to be in healthcare since I was a child. I used to want to be a physician. Really, I wanted to be a pediatrician. So, it was always my goal to go to medical school. And it just kind of got detoured because I did have a child at an early age. I was 19 years old when I became pregnant. And so, I knew I still wanted to be in healthcare, but I knew I didn't want to leave my child with someone else while I pursued medical school. So, I kind of looked into some things, did some research, and figured, well, I can go and do nursing because I can always, maybe further my career there. I don't have to stay just as a floor nurse, but it's a way to get my foot in the door in healthcare, a quick way to do it and still be with my son, not have to pass off my responsibility to someone else. So that's what I did. And that was initially like a 2-year degree in Associates of Science. And I finished becoming a registered nurse after 2 years, and I worked for a while, probably like 5 years, I think, had gotten married, had 2 other kids, and decided that it was about time to go back to school because I knew that I always wanted to do more. So, of course, in order to become a family nurse practitioner, you have to have your bachelor's as your undergrad to even apply to school. So there was something called an RN to BSN, which basically just moves you from the associate degree to the bachelor's degree. You're still the RN, you've been the RN, but you just have the bachelor's degree to apply to grad school. So I did that program while I worked, while I parented, and then again with the goal of immediately going to be a family nurse practitioner because that's like the next best thing to being a physician, right? Like literally,
Yeah.
we can prescribe, we can diagnose, we can treat, we can do basically what a physician does. We're just not physicians per se. So that's how I ended up going to nursing. And then that's how I ended up, I guess, a different route, but still able to do my lifelong dream, not necessarily a pediatrician, but I am a family nurse practitioner, which means I can see all ages and I'm able to take care of patients and be their provider. So that's basically how I got here.
Okay, that is a lot. And I'm sure that it was not as easy as you rattled it off.
No, not
But
really.
but I think that that's really amazing that you continue to persevere, even though, you started out and you had a couple of blocks in the roadway,
Mhm.
but you navigated along the way and you still continued on to what your ultimate goal was, is to work in healthcare in a way in which you could contribute. And so, how has you being a nurse kind of changed your perspective, or being a nurse practitioner now kind of changed your perspective of working with community and working with those that you served, going from working like bedside to now being like the nurse practitioner?
Gotcha. I think the biggest thing uh, that I see there's a difference in is in the bedside. Of course, there's a lot of compassion. There's going to be compassion in any of the roles, but there's a lot of compassion, and usually bedside involves a lot more just following a physician's orders, like caring for them while they're inpatient. Whereas when you can transition out and you become the nurse practitioner, the family nurse practitioner, you have an opportunity to
Hmm.
really educate people in the community about their health. And like that is one of my biggest like things when it comes to healthcare and being a family nurse practitioner that I'm very passionate about is really making people aware that before anything else, like you really are your own first doctor, right? Like you know your body best because it's your body. You wake up with it every day, you go to sleep with it every night, you know what takes place with your body throughout the day. So you are your own first doctor. So it is best for you to understand that not only being your only you are your only first doctor, your first doctor, but also that you know you only get one body. You don't get another one. So it's not like, so that's where the education piece comes in that I absolutely love to educate them about, you know, take care of yourself, because you're not going to get a chance. Like if you lose vision in this eye, there are things such as corneal transplants, but that's pretty expensive, few and far between. You're not going to get another eye. Or if you get your leg amputated because you were not taking care of your diabetes appropriately, I mean, there's a possibility to get a prosthetic leg, but you're not going to grow another leg. So it's just the education piece is the biggest part, and that's what I'm most passionate about. That's what I absolutely love about being a nurse practitioner. Is you have the opportunity to educate people in the community about being their own first doctor and realizing that they're not going to get another body. This is it. So you got to take care of what you have.
And we have that in common because as a community health worker, somebody that works in the community and educating people, is so important to break things down to people where they understand it. And it's not a lot of medical jargon that they have no understanding of what it means. And so now that you're able to have a little bit more time to do that, do you have like specialties, a specialty area in which you enjoy most educating people in, or are you all the way across the board just as long as you get the education?
I think I like to share with them most about understanding, because I guess the population I work with the most, because I work for United Healthcare, so it's Medicare patients mostly. There are some younger ones if they have a disability or something like that, but they're mostly like 65 and older, at least 55 and older, something like that. So I like to have the discussion with them about being knowledgeable about what they're actually putting in their body. Like, what are you taking? Don't just take something because somebody gave it to you. Or I went to my doctor and he gave me this. You don't know how many times, like, I'll sit there and I'll go over their medicines with them and they literally don't even know what they're taking them for. It's like, oh, what's that? Oh, can you tell me why I'm taking it? Like, they've never taken the time to ask. So that is like one of the biggest things for me. Probably my favorite part to talk about them with is, do you know what this medicine is? Do you know why you're taking it? Like, to educate them on, this is what this is. This is why you're taking it. This is why your doctor prescribed it to you. So that the medication piece, because I mean, pretty much everybody, for the most part, I would say like 90% of who I see, they're on prescription medicine. So they need to know what they're taking and why they're taking it, and not
Exactly.
take something because somebody gave it to them.
And that brings me to my point of COVID-19 flu season. So we are already starting to see like the second wave. And so can you in your own way kind of give us a overview of, okay, we have COVID-19 and we have, so many different things out there in the media, on the news. And so how important it is for people that are doing the educating, and then once you get the education, to disseminate the truth that is out there for them to, like, because you have the myths out there, right? But I want people to really understand how important, as that educator, that community health worker out there that's giving those people the information, what are some of the things we really need to be sure to get across to people about COVID-19?
So, you're right. There's so much information. There's, information from this side, information from that side. The media itself often has its own agenda. What I would say, in my own opinion, and this is what I would apply even to myself, or what I have been applying to myself, is, don't just outsource one set of information. Like, I try to be diversified in the information that I get, try to do as much research as I possibly can. And what I have taken from that, in addition to the healthcare knowledge that I do have, is that it is very important for everybody to do their absolute best and get their flu vaccine. And if you are 65 and above, you need to make sure you get the double dose. That's what they call it, or the high dose vaccine, because of course they are more at risk. So being that you've got almost like a twindemic taking place between COVID-19 and the flu, it is absolutely imperative for you to get your flu shot. That's the first thing. Second thing, for us to continue to try to comply with the guidelines that have been put in place to protect us. Try our best to social distance as much as we possibly can. Wear our mask. If you do feel sick, where you're running a fever, or you're feeling fatigued, or you've had some of the other symptoms of loss of taste or smell, or nausea, or even flu-like symptoms, stay home, stay away from others, and do your absolute best to take care of yourself by staying hydrated, making sure that you take a daily multivitamin, at least a vitamin C every day, you know, something like that. There's also been the research that's shown that vitamin D, because a lot of us, and even now, this is a great point to bring up, it's even more profound now. Vitamin D, of course, comes from the sun exposure, being outside. So we're already lacking in that. And now we're going to even more so be lacking in it because we've all been staying home. So getting your dose of vitamin D, getting your dose of vitamin C, getting your multivitamin, doing those things that you can, staying active even inside of your home. Eating things in moderation, not going completely overboard, but you know, keeping not only physically active, but mentally active. These things are all things that we should do to try to keep ourselves in the best health possible as we go through this second wave, or like I said, I refer to it like the twindemic, because you've got COVID and then you got flu, and then it's going to make it kind of difficult to even tell the two apart. So you have to do your absolute best to do your part here in the community to protect yourself as well as protect the others around you. So just those simple steps can really make a difference. It can really make a difference. And avoid those crowds. I know like people are getting a little antsy because you're not able to do what you've been doing. So it's like, you know, this has been going on for a while. I'm going to go do what I'm going to do. No, no, no. Especially not right now, because it's going to get cool. And then everybody's going to be in closer proximity to each other because everybody's going to want to be inside, be away from the cool and the cold weather. So you've got to actually be mindful. I know we're tired, we're weary, but we have to keep up with these patterns in order to protect ourselves and also be a good steward and help protect the others around us.
Man, that's so much good information. And especially when you're talking about it getting colder and people are starting to get antsy. You know, even me myself, I'm like, oh, what month is this? It is what day is it? But I think that the tips that you shared are very important for us to be able to share. So us as community health workers, promoters, still serving the community, and people are still needing resources, and they're still asking for all of this information. We have to be able to give them some credible information that they can utilize for them and their families. So what would you say for the students, people that have kids and they're sending their kids back to school, and the parents are working? What are some things that people can just be mindful of, as people are, they still do have to work? What are some of those things that we can do, tips we can do to just make sure that we, everybody is staying safe, especially when speaking with our kids that may not quite understand, we got flu, we got COVID? How do you talk to them about that?
Well, I mean, I guess it just all depends on the age. Of course, the smaller ones, it's going to be more difficult because they don't understand that. I mean, what is social distancing, right? But I guess if they're a little bit older, like for instance, my own son, he went back to school. My daughter did not go. She said she's not going, but he did return. He was doing the hybrid, the go a day, stay home a day, and then he eventually transitioned back. And you're absolutely right. It's out there because like literally every other day, there's like an email that comes and says, we know of a positive case, blah, blah, blah at the school, this, that, and the third. So I would just say, honestly, it's going to be out there. It was only going to be a matter of time before it trickled down to where I can say, I've even had it, or you can say, someone pretty well in close proximity to you who's had it. So it just goes back to those simple steps of having the discussion with them about this is very real. I don't want you to live in fear, but I want to educate you so that you have the knowledge that you need to do your best to protect yourself as well as the others around you. So we have to try to maintain our social distancing. Yes, you've got to wear your mask when you're at school. Good hand washing. I know at the schools they put the hand sanitizer stations pretty much just about everywhere for them to access, and being mindful. And if you really do feel sick, I mean, stay home. Tell your parents, I don't feel well, be mindful if you're even old enough in the morning to get up and acknowledge about how you actually feel. Do I feel well today? Or, possibly even if you think, you've been exposed, or if your child has been potentially exposed at school, then be proactive and keep that child home at least for 10 days to quarantine. Do what you can, because the honest to God truth is, like I said, it's out there.
Mm-hmm.
I do fully believe at some point, one point or another, everybody's going to end up being exposed, right? Because we only got one planet here, and we can only social distance so far from each other. So the exposure will be there, but there are steps such as that, the social distancing, the mask wearing, the good hand washing, and monitoring your own body, your own self, your own symptoms. And if you do come across something that's a little iffy about your symptoms, then you stay at home. You do your part. You'll know better if you're educated, if we share this information with them so they know what to do. That's how I would approach it. And then they can go about and be proactive in not only protecting themselves, but like I said, protecting the others around them.
Those are great tips. Thank you so much for that, because I know, just speaking with some of my colleagues, how to have this conversation with, kids and the family. Those are really good tips. So I'm sure you have been working very hard during COVID-19 yourself and getting ready to probably amp it up a little bit with everything with the winter season coming. So what are you doing to take care of Pam for self-care? How are you managing that?
Oh gosh. Well, to take care of myself, I mean, of course, in the workplace, like actually out in, because I go into people's homes. Of course, I follow those same steps that I have discussed with you. And actually, we're required to wear a mask as well as the shield.
Face shield. Okay.
Shield. So, and that's how you manage it in the workplace. The good hand washing, the hand sanitizer. Even in the member's home, I limit the close contact. I make sure that only happens when the actual physical assessment has to occur. And, we encourage them to wear a mask. We can't make these people wear a mask in their own home, but we encourage them to wear a mask. And then there's some modifications to the physical assessment. Now, once I come home, so that's how I take care of myself on the job. Once I come home,
different story.
Different story, right? Exactly. It's taking time to exercise. Like, I love to run on the treadmill. I mean, that's definitely like a mind clearer for me. Like, if I'm fogged up, I can run on the treadmill, and then I start to think a little clearer. So I do like to exercise. I love like to sit in the bathtub. Like, I could be Tasha, I could be in there for like hours, girl. They're like, "You still in there?" I'm like, "Yes." I have fallen asleep in there a few times, but being very mindful about even giving myself my time and my space, and making sure that other people respect that. So if that time is spent on the treadmill, if that time is spent in the bathtub for hours on end, that's my business. And so I make sure that I tell my family to be respectful of my time. If my time is spent, getting a mani-pedi or whatever, that's my time. That's not the time that you interfere with what I'm doing, because that is how I refresh myself. And we as health workers in the community, amongst all of this craziness that's going on, the COVID-19, the division, the election, these are stressors for us. So you're absolutely right, have to have ways to address our own mental and physical and emotional and spiritual health. And the spiritual part comes in just really taking time, just in a quiet place early in the morning, and just having that prayer time with God. That helps me out as well. But I make it a mandate. You have to respect my time.
It's a mandate. I love that. Because I ask this is the one question I ask everybody that comes on the show, because I'm very passionate about self-care. I know what can happen. It's happened to me. What can happen when you do not pour into yourself? And so sometimes the response is, I don't really. And I'm like, we're going to have a session after this podcast interview. But thank you for sharing that, especially how you pointed out the boundaries that you set. And so that people around you know that, hey, this is her time. That's what she needs to be the highest vibration of herself. And then when she's at the highest of herself, then that means that she can be that for us, and vice versa. So thank you for sharing that. So everything that you have going on, I also want to let people know that you are also a speaker. And so can you also talk a little bit about how your speaker journey also fits into what you do as well.
Absolutely. So I am on the journey of launching a career as a public speaker. And so that kind of fits into, I think it'll fit into healthcare with being that I love to speak about educating others. So I know on that side of it, I would absolutely love to speak to people about self-care, like you're saying, like I said, acknowledging that you are your own first doctor and that you only get one body, so you need to take care of it as best as you possibly can. But as far as the speaker journey goes, this is all still kind of new to me, so I'm kind of working through it. But the signature talk that I've been working on kind of reflects some personal experiences that I've had in my own life, because always, telling your story and being authentic is what people need to hear. That will actually impact them and hopefully encourage them and maybe even change some aspect of their life. So the thing that I'm very passionate about is being a Black woman and being labeled as a superwoman. So it's called My Black Queens: Overcoming the Superwoman Complex. So just a little bit about it is just basically trying to get across to other Black women that I know that based upon society, we've all kind of been viewed as these super women. I mean, we can do it all, right? We can be the mom, we can have the high stress job, we can take care of the home, we can take care of the husband, we can save the world, right? I mean, we can do all of these things and never miss a beat. Like, gosh, she doesn't look like anything that she's ever been through. It. How does she do it? Like, people are like absolutely amazed, right? That is the personification of the Black woman here in America. I really find it, and I've lived it. It's a personal experience for me. And that's a compliment. It's a great thing. It is. I like for people to look at me and say, wow, you do all of that? That's, oh my gosh, you don't even look like you're tired or anything. I mean, that's great. But on the flip side of it, we're also human beings.
Yeah.
And sometimes we just want to take our cape off and ask someone else to take the lead or ask someone else for help. And, it's also very common that I see, and again, personally speaking, I have experienced it, where I have almost been groomed to believe that asking for help is wrong. Like, if I ever come across as, oh gosh, I need help, or display any sort of vulnerability in any relationship that I have with anyone, then people are going to have a different view of me, that I'm weak and, I'm someone they can take advantage of. So, I just want to get across to other Black women. I am passionate about getting across to other Black women that it is okay. You can take your cape off sometimes, that actually it's a very natural thing to be vulnerable, to be fragile, and to ask others for help, to support you in what you're doing. So that's kind of where the talk goes. Basically.
I love it. And I love that you're probably speaking to so many people that are hearing this message. One, you work in healthcare right now during a pandemic. You have your own family, kids in school, educating them, everything else you have going on. And so I'm sure people, me, myself included, you're speaking to me, that sometimes you just need a moment to pause, break, and have your time. And so I think that goes very much into, being able to take care of yourself and do it in a way that serves you and serves others well. So thank you so much for that. So you guys, if y'all need somebody to speak to you and inspire your people, then please let Pam know. She is a nurse practitioner. She has all of these other amazing services that she does. So how can people get in contact with you?
So if it's on Instagram, it's the handle at Pamela John Speaks, girl. And I've never wanted to tell anybody what my middle name was, so I'm really stepping out. That's my middle name, Jon, at Pamela John Speaks. And then on Facebook, it's just Pamela J. Alexander. And then I can always be reached by email, pwoodsrn@gmail.com. So pwoodsrn@gmail.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I really enjoyed our conversation today.
Thank you, Tasha, for having me. I appreciate you.